Hello everyone. First of all, please excuse the state of me. I'm not getting dressed at the moment. I wanted to keep everyone informed and up to date because everyone's been just so kind. Excuse all the ums as well. Today is Monday the 17th of September, and on Friday, which would have been the 14th, so last Friday, after collecting my mother's ashes in the morning with my dad, the afternoon I started the evening, 5 o'clock, I started bleeding and having some major back pain, lower back pain, so I knew things were starting. This was after I'd taken, I don't know the name of the medication, but it's what the hospital give you to block the progesterone to start the induction process, and the baby's died. So I'd taken that Thursday morning and was booked in for Saturday morning on the gynae ward to be induced pessaries and stuff. So, like I say, Friday evening my body decided to take over and start doing things itself, which was frightening. So my husband rushed me up to A&E, who were horrible. I'm not even going to pretend they were any help. They made a heartbreaking situation even worse, and I'm going to name and shame. This was Hillingdon Hospital A&E. We arrived. My husband grabbed a paramedic because I literally could not get out of the car. I was in so much pain and was bleeding. So he grabbed a paramedic with a wheelchair. He helped wheel me in while he moved the car out of the way, trying to do the right thing. I tried to explain to receptionists what was going on. They worked at their usual pace, unfortunately. I was eventually told to go around to the assessment area. Again, still in the wheelchair. Both hubby and me tried to explain to this not very friendly nurse what had happened. I had my hospital notes there. I offered her those. She didn't want them for some unknown reason. I explained exactly what had gone on. That was booked in the next day. I told them the name of the ward, what exactly was happening. I told them, the baby had died. It wasn't a termination or anything else. It wasn't a miscarriage. The baby had died, and we'd already known this. And that they were expecting me the next morning, and I was told if it happened earlier to go to A&E, and A&E would send me straight up. Complete rubbish. She then told us, well, we haven't got a bed ready, even in a cubicle. We have to deep clean a bed. So you have to go back into the main waiting area, at which point obviously my husband and I said, well, no, I can't go and sit in a waiting area. Sorry, the lighting's really bad here. Let me just turn. A waiting area with God knows how many people, bleeding and carrying in labour with a dead baby. She said basically you have to. So we said no, we'll go and sit just outside your door here in the corridor, which is exactly what we did. From where we were sitting, he was standing, we could actually hear this woman on the phone to what I assume was the gynae wards, I actually heard her say, I don't really know anything about this woman. Obviously I was speaking some other language. But I don't know whether she's had a termination or what she's doing. But she's expected. We've told her she can't come straight up the ward when she feels like it. I heard all this, and then came back and asked me my name again because she hadn't listened. And said, we will get in a cubicle. We need to check that you're safe because you're bleeding, you're in pain. Apparently, how you check someone is safe is you stick them in a cubicle with the curtain shut and you go nowhere bloody near them. Then you eventually send someone who can just about use the equipment to check blood pressure, temp, and heart rate, and then you don't do anything about it when they're high. That's how you check someone safe in Hillingdon Hospital A&E, apparently. So we were left. So I was still in pain, still bleeding. No one had checked how much blood I was losing at all either, can I just add. In the end, we'd been waiting a good hour and a half to hour and 3/4. It's hard to keep track of the time. It felt like hours and hours. Terrified I was going to give birth to my dead baby in A&E with all this coughing and spluttering and all these people around on a trolley. Absolutely terrified. After about, like I said, the hour and a half or whatever, I said to my hubby, I said, you need to ask them whether they're, speak to the gynae ward again, whether someone is actually coming to see me. If not, I'm going home. I don't care, I'm in pain and bleeding, I'll give birth to him at home. I'd rather give birth to him in the car on the way home than here. So he went and found any nurse eventually, after being ignored at the desk by 3 different people, who phoned the gynae ward. Magically, all of a sudden, someone came down. And this nice, I don't know whether she was a midwife or junior doctor or something, said they'd discussed me on the ward. They were aware I was booked in for the next day. They didn't want to examine me because they didn't want to start anything off if the body was doing it, because the specialist nurse that was booked for me for Saturday wasn't there. But they wanted to admit me overnight, just in case anything happened, because they weren't happy that I was bleeding. But again, they were having to wait to check that they had a bed up there. She commented that my blood pressure had been high, it had been 98, the bottom number had been 98, and so my normal is about 70 and below. So it was worryingly high. She said my heart rate was also high. So they wanted to monitor all that overnight as well. Again, no one on A&E had even registered that it was high, and rechecked it, had done absolutely zero. And so, she popped down, put my labels on. I hadn't even been labelled. I had, the little wrist tag. None of that. I think someone had just about put a needle in my arm, put nothing through it. Took booking in blood eventually after she'd been, because she obviously went and told someone that, you haven't done anything for this patient. Kept popping backwards and forwards because she was doing the changeover. She just started on the ward. Said that they were trying to get me a side room, which is what I was booked in for on the Saturday, obviously to give birth. And my husband desperately wanted to stay with me because it could happen at any time. As far as we knew, he could come at any time. He didn't want me to be on my own, and he didn't want me to be in hospital on my own. When that happens. So he stayed, bless him, in an armchair next to my bed all night. Not that either of us slept. They didn't really do anything. The nurses on the ward were lovely, but they kept telling me they weren't the specialist nurse and that I shouldn't have the baby till the next day. Like I could control that, control anything. But they kept sort of peeping in the room all night. Didn't check me, didn't do anything else. And then luckily my dad was able to stay at our house with our 3 other boys. So hard enough day. He'd been to collect his wife's ashes. Horrible time. 2 days after her funeral, can I add? Sorry about the it's really bad manners. We stayed overnight. The specialist nurse arrived in the morning. She was absolutely fantastic. I can't say enough good things about Lenny, her name is. A whole other class. She said the doctor was due any minute. She went through all the paperwork. Baby has to have a post-mortem, or we've gone along with that, on post-mortem. She wanted to go through that, discuss funeral arrangements, hospital funeral. Just explain, double check that I knew what the procedure was now, as regards to inducing my labour. Even though she thought it possibly started on its own, but was going to need induction because he hadn't been born. So this was about 8:30, I think, in the morning. And then this doctor came, really not very friendly, warm person at all. It only got worse, I'm afraid. Again, ran through, did I understand? Made me sign the papers for the post-mortem. In fact, I couldn't sign. I started signing, and I got this horrendous pain in my lower back, and I had to get my husband to finish, which he was actually irritated with me about. So maybe I should just scribble all over the page. And then she was sort of giving me strange advice, try and relax, order a pizza if you want, even though I've been told by the other nurse I couldn't eat, in case I had to be rushed to theatre. So I thought, I'm just not going to eat anyway, so I thought, okay, whatever nonsense that was. And then she went to leave. My hubby, she'd been with us a while, and my husband said to her, so you're going to go and get the pessary to start Helen off now, because I don't want her left sitting around like this. And she said, oh yeah, I'll go and find something. And she literally had left the room for 5 minutes, and I stood up and said to my hubby, I don't feel right. I had this pain again in my lower back, felt this little gush, and I've been, like I said, been losing blood all evening. I said to my husband, can you check how much I've just bled? And tell her I don't want to call her back in, but to make a fuss about nothing. And as I pulled these very attractive paper underwear they'd given me out, sort of outwards to look, I'm sorry if this is graphic, I'm really, really sorry if it's too much information, but my baby just came out. Just fell out, out of me. Didn't want me to go through the pessary thing. Sorry, I'm going to get choked up again. And he was just there. I said, my poor husband, I said, the baby's here. And he looked and ran out of the room, shouting out for this nurse, saying, you need to come now, the baby's here. And she came running in, and everyone was telling me to sit down. And I said, I can't sit down, he's down there. And she helped me sort of clamber in the most awkward way onto the bed. And, so obviously she then took him out from there. And, but, because I'd said I wanted to see him straight away. I've done with all my other boys the same thing. he's no different. I know, I knew I wasn't going to see this, pink, kicking, crying baby, but he's still my baby, still my son. So she put a sheet over, my top. I had a nightie or whatever on, gown, and delivered him straight onto that, and sort of laid him so I could see, his features and everything. And told me he hadn't died as early as they'd said at the scan. He apparently probably only died a day or two before that scan, so he'd only been gone a week. And so he was 16 weeks, she said, because he was just so formed and so much bigger than they'd thought. She then obviously was checking for placenta, and this is when all hell broke loose. I didn't know what the fuss was about. I thought they were just being silly. Placentas don't go boom and magically appear in any of my births. They have to give me the injection and faff about it for a while. But suddenly the room was absolutely panicking. I had the doctor run in, pulling and pushing at me, telling me to push, really having to go at me to push. And I kept feeling gushing. I thought, well, of course, I've just given birth. Of course I'm going to be bleeding. Again, I thought, why the make fuss? Next minute, 5 other people have run in the room. Bits of paper waved in my face, telling me I was being rushed to theatre, and I had to agree to possible other surgery, which I knew meant they may have to take my womb. And I just said to my husband, with the way everything's going, I said, I'm going to lose my womb. And then they kept shouting at me again to keep pushing, and they were pressing on my stomach. And my husband, had tears in his eyes, and I still at this point didn't really understand, what the hell was going on. Signed this bit of paper for theatre, and this other doctor came in, a nicer one, with a big gas and air cylinders, and said, will you let me try one more thing? Theatre can't see you for 20 minutes, which is too long. She said it's too dangerous, the rate you're losing blood. But let me just try this one thing, and if it's too much for you, if it's too painful, because I had to tell the other doctor to stop because I was in agony, we'll rush you down to theatre. So she gave me the gas and air, and basically she went in, found the placenta. I don't think the other doctor could even find it. And again, a bit TMI, I literally had to rip the placenta away. And the placenta was bigger than they thought, so the placenta was really big, and the cord had been around his neck, which is not the cause of death. He died before that. Obviously, when I know of the post-mortem, it's obviously to do with this megacystus bladder problem. But we'll hopefully know a bit more when they've examined him. So she delivered the placenta. I'd have all these injections and all these things to try and make the womb contract back down, because, it turns out I lost 800 millilitres of blood in a really short space of time. And again, I hadn't been aware first. I could feel all this stuff coming out when I felt clots and everything, and I just thought, duh, had a baby, what did they expect? But apparently I was in quite a bad way. So that was done. He was born, Bailey Green was born at 9:24 a.m. and they delivered my placenta at 10:30 in the end. The nurse, like I said, was wonderful. After they'd all sort of gone and left me alone, the nurse stayed with us, and actually jumping back a little bit, while the big panic with the placenta was going on, she'd obviously made this little cot for Bailey. It was just the saddest little thing. There was some sort of rectangle box that they'd have, but she'd covered it in this white sheet and taped all the sheet around it so it was neat. Put this little blue knitted square that obviously someone had made in the middle of it, and then laid Bailey inside this. It looked like a little sleeping bag. It was like a little sheet with flowers and stuff all over it and lace, and a little blue ribbon holding it closed around his little body. So he looked, he looked peaceful. She had him in this, and she had him next to me on the bed while this doctor was trying to, the original doctor, the not so nice one, was trying to deliver the placenta. And this doctor kept saying to her, "Are you sure she hasn't delivered? I can't find a placenta." So rather than just, asking this nurse, are you sure the placenta wasn't attached to the baby, she ripped open what he was wearing and prodded him around right next to me on the bed. You wouldn't believe it, would you? So, this nurse was excellent. She sort of took him away from her straight away, wrapped him back up and moved him over to the side, so this doctor could carry on her butchering. But it's only afterwards when you think about these things, I just think basically, what a bitch, excuse my language, but heartless. So not on my good list. Like I say, so it all been delivered. She stayed with us with Bailey, and then obviously gave us some time. We took a few photos, sort of on your phone as you do, me holding him just in this little cot. She even called it a cot, not a box. It was lovely. And, so did hubby. And obviously I think either I had to be examined again or it was Milton, I can't remember. They sort of took him off, to a quiet room sort of thing. And she took some photos. She took one that has to go in my records and one for us of him. that was lovely. And she said she'd rearranged him again, to, cleaned him up a little bit maybe, I think, and brought him back into us, for another good while. We then had asked if it was possible, because obviously being a weekend, we thought, it may be a bit tricky, if it was possible to get a priest or a vicar or someone to come and bless Bailey. And she said the hospital chaplain wasn't around. She tried to get him. She'd been on switchboard trying to get him all morning, and she then arranged for someone else from one of our other local churches. And we're not religious. We're not sort of church every Sunday type people. But having had my mum's funeral that week and everything, it just felt right that he should have some sort of, because we weren't going to be able to have a service until after the post-mortem. He should have some sort of help on his way, sort of thing. And so eventually this lovely reverend came from one of the pretty churches near us, and he was absolutely lovely. He said prayers, he said a separate one for Bailey, he said one for myself and my husband, he said a separate one for me as a mother, he said one for us and our children, and then he said one for my mum, my loss, me having the loss of my mum sort of poem. And he asked questions, he looked at Bailey, didn't ignore him being in the room. And it was lovely. He read some passages to us. Really, it was wonderful, really. So I'm so glad we did that. And again, when and obviously later on when Bailey was due to be taken away to the mortuary, the hospital, and to be prepared to be collected this week for his post-mortem, the nurse came back again and said, "Do you want some more time with him before he goes?" Brought him in again. Commented that, considering he'd been out of me for all those hours and everything, and, being a hot day, he'd kept his colour. He wasn't this, I was warned he was going to be this awful, really dark colour, and he wasn't. It was just how she knew that he hadn't been dead as long as they thought. He was lovely, little red jelly baby, my husband kept saying. So he stayed with us, and again, we took whatever other photos. We had a really good cry. I remember seeing my husband cry like that, which means so much to me that he, showed that feeling. And then obviously, she took him out the way. I think it was another mealtime or something. My husband just said, he's ready to sort of go now. She took him and then came back and told us when the porters had come to collect him. He didn't go past our door to be collected, but she said the porters are here. And she even told us, my husband said, my wife's worried, the porter's literally going to collect him in this little cot. And she said, oh no, they have a box for carrying, deceased people. They have a similar one for babies, because obviously the placenta has to go with him to be examined by the pathologist. So she, that was very, very gently done. And I was eventually discharged at, I think it was about 6:30 in the evening. Given painkillers to take with me, and I have to have a 6-week check with my consultant and stuff. So we came home, to our other 3 boys and my dad. So I've been home now today. That was Saturday evening, and today's now Monday. So today's my first day without hubby. He's gone back to work, having had the week off, and he was away on holiday for 2 weeks before. So I'd had to leave the holiday for a few days in because my mother died. My dad's been over here. He's gone and taken my oldest out to an appointment. And he took the younger one to school, and will hopefully be collecting for me this afternoon. So it's just me. So I thought I'd grab the moment to share Bailey's story. I do have a photo of Bailey. I'm umming and ahhing about showing it, but I guess since he's what we're talking about, he should be part of this. I have the photo the hospital gave, but I also have one on my phone, which is easy to show you the phone one. Please just excuse me for a moment. I can give you a quick, I'll see how I feel about giving you a quick flash of Bailey. Just very quickly. There we go. My youngest son. So I guess I'm left now with trying to come to terms with the grief. Not so easy. I have set up a charity page in Bailey's name with the Just Giving. Hopefully I can put a link on here to that actually. Any little bit you can give, and please pass the word on as well. It's all going to the SANS charity, which is the Stillbirth and Neonatal Death charity. They're a proper registered charity, as you can see if you go onto the link. I'm just trying to raise whatever we can. I just feel I have to do something practical. I have to wait a while before I can do the funeral service, which will just be a hospital one, but I wanted to say, so anyone who wants to help, please do. The charity are working to support families like us and all the others, and to help with research into why these awful things are happening. So I will post the link up for anyone who's interested. And just thank you, everyone, once again. Thinking of you all. Blessed be.